Okay, this video is in response to Daily Dose of Wisdom. Basically, I came across a video where the brothers were reacting to a gentleman that was on Flagrant 2, a Christian, and he was basically trying to answer questions as far as the genocide in the Old Testament and how could the God who everyone considers holy and just tell the Israelites to carry out a genocide against the Canaanites. And this is something that a lot of Christians struggle with to justify their God and how he can tell the Israelites to go into this land and kill men, women, children, and innocent babies. That's the main part that everyone's having a problem with, how the God of Israel commanded the Israelites. It's so funny, the scholar that I read, he calls them the Israelis. But anywho, people are struggling, Christians are struggling with justifying their God telling the Israelites to go into a land to kill innocent children. So they say maybe it was just because the Canaanites were wicked, but how could the Most High say kill the children and the babies? And that's where I come in at, to help the people out with understanding that the Most High has given me. And that's what I'm here to do. All right, let's begin. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 16. But of the cities of these people, which the Lord thy God doeth give thee for an inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth. But thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hittites and the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, that they teach you not to do after their abominations, which they have done unto their gods. So shall ye sin against the Lord your God. Now that is the holy commandment of genocides against the Canaanites. And we can jump to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and read. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hast cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show them mercy, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters shalt thou not give unto thy son, nor thy daughters shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away their sons from following me. Thy sons from following me, that they may serve other gods, so will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. And this was one of Solomon's sins. He messed around and married one of those women because the Israelites did not do as they were commanded, and he ended up following one of them pagan gods. So we're gonna learn something on our way to learning something, and those good, bro. So those 7 nations, Most High commanded us not to marry them. So I say, love is love. Marry who you want. You know, whether you consider yourself an Israelite, a Christian, spiritual Israelite. The point is, if you find your spouse in the category of one of these 7 nations in Deuteronomy chapter 7, you shall withstand and not marry them. But anybody else, I say have a field day. All right, cool. We got that understanding. Don't marry these people and utterly destroy them. Point blank simple. Pretty simple commandment. Everything that's living in that land, take them out. And this is what the Christians can't get with. Now we're going to read this forum on reasonablefaith.com that is ran by William Lane Craig. In the forum, there has been some good questions raised on the issues of God commanding the Jews to commit genocide on the people in the Promised Land. As you have pointed out in some of your written works, that this act does not fit with the Western concept of God being the big sugar daddy in the sky. Now, this is someone just asking this scholar who runs the website. So this is a question being proposed. Now, we can certainly find justification for these people coming under God's judgment because of their sins, idolatry, sacrificing their children, etc. But a harder question is the killing of the children and the infants. If the children are young enough, along with the infants, are innocent of the sins that their society has committed, how do we reconcile this commandment of God to kill the children with the concept of his holiness? Thank you, Stephen Shea. And then we have down here, now this is interesting because they're basically trying to align the God of Israel with the ways of the Muslims based off Islam crusades. So I believe this is another question proposed to William Lane Craig. I have heard you justify the Old Testament violence on the basis that God have used Israelites' army to judge the Canaanites, and their elimination by Israelites is morally right as they were obeying God's commandment. Parentheses, if would be wrong if they did not obey God in eliminating the Canaanites. This resembles a bit on how Muslims define morality and justify the violence of Muhammad and other morally questionable actions. Parentheses, Muslims define moral as doing the will of God. Do you see any difference between your justifications of Old Testament violence and Islamic justifications of Muhammad and the violent verses of the Quran? Is this violence and morally questionable actions in verses of the Quran a good argument while talking to Muslims? Question mark. And this is signed Anonymous, country, Afghanistan. And I have heard many theories on the reasons why this commandment was given. Ouch, hello? Oh, you hurt my elbow. So what I was saying was, heard a lot of theories on why this divine commandment was given out when it seemed so cruel. And so once again, I'm on William Lane Craig website, and the theories you have with this is the people in general. I find some of them interesting, good, speculating. They say, well, if you knew Hitler was going to be Hitler, don't you think he should have been taken out as a baby? I heard that. And turn it down, please. And so this is what William Lane Craig said. And so the problem, and I quote William Lane Craig, so the problem isn't that God ended the Canaanites' lives. The problem is that he commanded the Israeli soldiers to end them. Isn't that like commanding someone to commit murder? No, it's not. Rather, since our moral duties are determined by God's commands, it is commanding someone to do something which, in the absence of a divine command, would have been murder. The act was morally obligated for the Israeli soldier in virtue of God's command, even though they had undertaken it on their own initiative. It would have been wrong. So he's saying, he's talking in circles, and he's speculating, trying not to point the finger, but he is pointing the finger. And you just got to read the whole article for yourself and decide what he's saying. But I really don't like how he began it. He said, so the problem isn't that God ended the Canaanite lives. The problem is that he commanded the Israeli soldiers to end them. What? Huh? Did not God work through men? Anywho, let's continue. So let's jump to Genesis 9 and get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. Genesis 9, chapter 9, verse 22. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had did unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. So, there's a lot going on right here. First of all, Ham did the wicked act. So therefore, why curse be Canaan if Ham did the wicked act? And notice how the Most High aligns Canaan with the brethren of Shem and Japheth. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Let's go up one more. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants, shall he be unto his brethren. And then we read about the brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And then we read about another brethren. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be what? His servant. Now, in reality, is not Canaan the nephew of Shem and Japheth? Am I looking into this too much? Am I tripping? Am I putting my own interpretation on this? Let's continue. So the reason why we got to understand the genocide against the Canaanites is because they were cursed from inception. They were never supposed to be on this earth in the first place. And it was a righteous judgment for God to eliminate them. Let's go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, verse 11. Because now we got to understand, what did Ham do in the first place to get his son Canaan on a chopping block like that to live such a harsh life? With all thy getting, get what? Some understanding, because this is another theory that's up in the air. What did Ham do? Why curse be Canaan? Why the extinction of the Canaanites? Let's read Leviticus chapter 20, verse 11. And the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death, and their blood shall be upon them. So the definition of uncovering your father's nakedness is what? Let's read it again. And the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death, and their blood shall be upon them. So Ham did what? He uncovered his father's nakedness, meaning he slept with his own mother. That's incest, that's rape, that's wild. And through that action came a child that was never supposed to be on this earth, named Canaan, and he was numbered with his brethren, Shem and Japheth, which were also his uncles. So therefore, a time came for these wicked people who always had a wicked nature about them to be eliminated. And that was the divine commandment given out to the Israelites to finally rid these bastards from the earth. And let's look up the name Canaan. What does it mean? Now, to wrap this up, the meaning of Canaan means humiliate, to make someone feel ashamed, foolish, or low. And also, early scholars in the late 1800s have concluded that the origins of the name Canaan is doubless, if you will, doubless, meaning something that comes from a source that is questionable, uncertain, or not fully trustworthy, implying doubt about its truth, authenticity, or moral standing. It suggests that the source is split of two minds, hence doubless from Latin, meaning that it's a debate on what the term Canaan really means. And if we truly knew what it means based off the origin of his inception, imagine how we would really feel about it. Imagine the understanding that we can have about it, that I probably wouldn't even have to make this video if his name was plain. So long story short, that was a divine commandment from the heavens above, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to the Israelites to exterminate those Canaanites because they never should have been on the face of the earth in the first place. Point blank, period.